What is unethical as frick, but is extremely common practice in the business world. Paying invoices late, especially big companies that pay a few months late. It kills small business, and seems to be quite normal here in the UK. No auto cancel on recurring payments. Companies could very easily add the feature but won't, hoping you forget and pay them more. I think PayPal has the ability to block a company from charging you if you don't want that service anymore. Useful for companies that purposefully make it a pain to cancel recurring payments. It's shady to give dedicated, long-term employees a measly 2-3% annual raise, if any at all, while hiring less experienced people for the same, or higher, salary than the experienced employee. It essentially punishes loyal employees. In Australia, Subway claimed footlong was a trademark name, and not a suggestion of sizing, after many people pointed out their subs were well under a foot long. I'm pretty sure they got sued and had to actually make the foot long a foot long. Using a previous salary against you. Oh, you make $40,000? Well, we'll offer you $50,000. That's a 25% increase in pay. Your salary shouldn't be relative. It should be what the market value of the position is. If a job pays $75,000, don't pay me only $50,000 because I only currently make $40,000. Working when you are sick. I have heard stories of bosses forcing people to come in despite being extremely ill. Also, I just wish that it would be mandatory schedule length of at least 2 weeks if the hours are not the same every day. Mine changes weekly, and it's hard to plan anything. Ugh, I know what you mean about scheduling. I worked at a grocery store that gave you your schedule on Friday, and you'd have to wait to Friday to know if you worked Saturday or not. Absolutely absurd. Hire young people who are prepared and motivated and enjoy the work. Give them 50 hours a week of work. No special overtime pay. Tell them it'll be back to normal at the end of the month when the regular crunch is over. Repeat until near a deadline. Give them 80 hours a week. 7 days a week of crunch to meet the deadline. Continue past deadline a little while, then return to regular hours of 50 hours. Repeat until your employees hate life. Refuse to give references when they quit to protect yourself legally. Normalize across the industry so nobody can complain too much and sound credible. Someone sounds like a game developer. Using your employment as leverage to keep your mouth shut. For example, a temp agency I worked through tried to deduct the cost of PPE from my paycheck. I told them that legally, employers need to provide PPE to their employees, not sell it to them. They threatened to fire me. I reported them to OSHA. They got fined and had to reimburse everyone their $15 deduction for PPE. Temp agencies are freaking scams. PPE, personal protective equipment, hard hat, safety glasses, gloves, steel-tipped boots, etc. I listed steel-toe boots as an example of PPE, but employers aren't necessarily required to provide steel-tipped shoes. Most employers will reimburse the cost of them, though, for regular employees. Not so much for temps. The sort of things that need to be supplied would be protective headwear, eyewear, gloves, etc. Not too sure about ear protection, but my employer supplies earplugs. Also, to the few thinking he did this over $15? What a cheapskate. I didn't do it for the money. I did it because they were taking advantage of people who didn't know any better. A menial amount to you? Probably. But when I applied to this agency, I was broke as frickin' $15 was more than my hourly wage. Not cool. I really hate the temp agency route so many places are going. When I was looking for jobs, machining everywhere around here was either a temp position or wanted some ungodly amount of experience. Needless to say, I took a job in the semiconductor field and will never be able to pay my student loans off. A company having a business model that relies on charging fees for breaking its own rules without justification for them. Looking at your credit one. Has a late payment fee but refuses to add any kind of auto payment. In 2017. Takes 5 days to clear a normal payment. Pay 4 days before your bill is due? That's a late payment fee. Want your payment to clear earlier to avoid that fee? Pay an express payment fee. It's the same fee amount. Lordy, what a coincidence. Not to mention how they designed their name and logo to be so similar to the familiar and safe Capital One. I'm sure this has tricked people into acquiring credit cards they shouldn't have. I've accidentally thrown out my legit Capital One mail out of habit from throwing out the Credit One spam. Apparently Credit One came first, so this probably wasn't by design like I assumed. Online stores advertise their products at attractively lower prices, but you will never really be able to get the product for that price because they will add extra charges somehow. Nominal weights and measures that don't match actual weights and measures. My company sells by the each, but each item has a nominal weight. We intentionally produce our product approximately 10% light to save raw material costs. What's funny is in the steel pipe industry they do the opposite. A lot of pipe mills will sell you a heavier walled pipe to increase the cost of each joint. Fake promotions. There's a role you can apply for that doesn't have any extra pay or benefits, in which you do the same work as the role above that, which is higher paid, in the hopes that eventually you'll be the next in line to actually be given that next position. Except you won't. Using unpaid intern as worker. They have the exact same tasks as everyone else. They work the same hours, even more, because they think that if they work more they will be noticed and hired. They won't. And it's rare that their supervisor take the time to teach them anything. They have to figure out things by themselves. Of course most struggle, and it's used as an excuse to not hire them. That sound like slavery with extra steps. Careful. Deceptive. Wording. Up to 100 Mbps internet speeds means you get 5-6 Mbps, and up to 100 for a moment here and there. Made with 100% chicken simply means the real chicken was utilized as an ingredient at some point. It's like saying a bottle of wine is made with 100% organic cork. Sugar-free means less sugar per serving than the minimum we have to report. The top rated usually followed by the specific study that ranked it best. Did you know you can pay a company to perform a study for you that's guaranteed to determine you're the best? Add to that labeling things like 0% cholesterol or free from saturated fats on foods that would never normally contain or be expected to contain those things. Bonus points if it's something really unhealthy like boiled sweets. Government contracting. Building a thing to specs but not entirely up to full functionality. Knowing the issues that will arise. Doing nothing about it, and then make the government cut a whole different and very profitable contract to fix said problems. I do a lot of federal contracts. A lot of the waste here is because procurement officers don't know WTF they are talking about. I have tried endlessly to get specs right, more cost effective, more geared towards the application, to no avail. In my experience the people working for the feds don't give a crap if it's right. Convenience fees for paying online instead of mailing in a check money order. Are you freaking kidding me? You should be giving me a discount for saving you labor costs of processing my payment. Everyone keeps mentioning they have to pay credit card fees, website hosting, etc. But that is part of your business. Put it in with the other services you must pay for to operate your business. Target has to pay a power bill and water bill for me to shop in their store. If I spend $1 or $1,000 they don't add a fee for me using their store, wiping my butt with their toilet paper in their restrooms, or using my debit card or credit card. If you want part of your business model to be accepting online payments, then you set up your business so that you can still profit from this practice. When Walmart installed those new scan and find the price things you see every 10 aisles or so, they didn't tack on a new charge to my purchase for we let you have cool price check scanners in the store now. No, just a new technology they worked into their business model. I don't pay extra for the guy pushing the carts into the building, even if I use a cart or don't use one. Also, the original complaint that made me post this is that my state child support agency makes me go buy 2 money orders and mail them by hand every month because to pay online on their website they want $15. Oh, and they already tack on $5 more to my child support for administrative fees that goes in their pocket, not in the pocket of my gold digging pill popping tattoo artist cheating with crack W of an egg donor. Yes, tell that to Ticketmaster. They have convenience fee, processing fee, service fee, all kinds of fees. Comcast's pricing strategy where they raise the price an absurd amount from one month to the next and just hope customers aren't paying attention or too passive to complain. Car salesman. Almost no other product has someone who makes money selling you a product you already want. That the price for the product is negotiable. Some people can haggle a few thousand off the price while little old ladies get taken for as much as possible, and that there are laws requiring you to buy them through dealers instead of direct from the manufacturer if you know what you want. Public school teacher here. My school has started to deduct vacation sick hours if teachers forget to swipe in. We're basically there all the time anyways and don't get paid overtime, so clocking in is pretty easy to forget. What ends up happening is teachers get their accumulated vacay sick hours deducted while actively teaching, all because of a forgotten swipe. The admin and district people didn't seem to see how absolutely unethical this practice is, and I never got back 4 days of vacay hours from missed swipes. You may want to look into this practice further in your state. This may be against the law. Literally anything a corporation does that they can be fined for is taken into account as a business expense. If it's cheaper to pay an illegal dumping fine than it is to change the way they process waste, nothing will be done to stop the illegal dumping. People give no fricks about your luggage or parcel. They get dropped, thrown around every day behind the closed door, especially heavy items. Getting a lot more common in my industry is hiring interns all the time. After their few months of training they get replaced by next batch. With the shortage of jobs and need for experience, many people fresh out of college will happily work for free to gain experience. Some degree of false advertising. My food never looks like it does on the menu. My internet is never as fast as advertised. The contractor never finishes when he says he will. My internet is never as fast as advertised. That's why the advertised speed always says up to, so it's not technically false advertising. Still scummy as frick, though. Hire a batch of temps as temp to hire, with the supposed idea being that you'll be offered a permanent position at the end of the temp period with satisfactory performance. Set performance standards that are borderline physically impossible to meet. After the end of the temp period, be like, sorry guys, can't hire you on because you didn't meet our performance standards. Hire a new batch of temps. A plastics company I temped for did this at their injection molding plant. The whole complex was run with basically a skeleton crew of company workers, admin with a constantly rotating batch of temps making up the bulk of the workforce. This is becoming really common in my neck of the woods. Basically a company needs someone to fill a role. Instead of giving them a job and all the perks like paid holidays etc, they instead hire you as a contractor. This means you still have to play by their rules as to when they want you in, but you get none of the perks besides your wage. No sick days, no holidays, nothing. I wrote this while at work as a quick comment and didn't expect it to gain any traction, but since it did I need to make something clear. I should have been clearer as there's a lot of confusion over this. I'm not referring to high-paying jobs where a lot of the time being a contractor is the way to go. This system has been implemented over here for retail service jobs. You end up making less since you get paid the same as permanent workers, but you are entitled to no bonuses, paid holiday or sick days. When you're working a minimal wage job, this is nasty. Companies that stifle competition innovation by buying smaller companies just to stop what the smaller company is doing. Add to that companies who lobby the government in order to create barriers to entry. Taking advantage of recent grads' bad market to take in people who will accept crappy conditions, then kicking them out if when they complain and getting more new faces. Wage theft trumps all other forms of theft in the USA, yet is hardly ever enforced. It steals $8.8 billion from lower wage workers a year. I would hope it goes without saying theft from your workers is unethical. Cutting people's hours just enough to not be considered full-time so they don't have to give you benefits. Those bosses are true pieces of crap, and I happen to know a few of them. I used to work for an unnamed university that made this big deal about how they were gonna pay $15 an hour by a certain year, well before the city minutes wage was going to reach that high cost of living, patting themselves on the back. Then there was the fine print. It was only for people hired to work 32 hours a week. So what they'd do was hire people to work one shift a semester, then scheduled them to work 38 hours a week. Non-students could work more than 20. I was a non-student, but because the contract was only for 3 hours a semester. Also they didn't even pay the city's minimum wage for the first year I worked there, $2 under. And when it finally did go up, they didn't pay me the same rate as the students, who got the minimum wage raise. The 3 non-student workers had to fight for 2 months to get the same pay, and the same thing happened the next year. I finally just quit. Student loans in the US, little to no approval process, they just give it. High interest rates, refuse to settle, can't be discharged in bankruptcy. They follow people well into their 40s, limiting their buying power for houses, cars, other stuff. 17-18-year-olds have no idea what they are signing because we conveniently provide them no education on the process up until they have to decide whether to sign or not. This also gives colleges no incentive to charge reasonable tuition costs. Requiring experience for entry-level jobs. People are saying that entry level means entry into the company. In that case, then aren't all external openings entry level positions? Hiring more part-time workers instead of giving hourly workers slightly more hours to avoid giving them benefits. My former boss did that and we eventually found out her Christmas bonus was based on how much she saved on wages, benefits, etc. Unpaid internships. It's a great opportunity to learn. Learn what? The meaning of slavery? You work like someone that is hired, but for a shorter period. They don't bother to teach you anything cause you will pick up as you go. Even better when you don't even work in the area you wanted to get the internship. Hey, you're studying the law, right? I have a great opportunity for you to work as my secretary. My job fires people who put in their 2 weeks. They do this so our attrition doesn't look bad. I've seen people get fired the day they put in their notice, last day, and in between. Claiming it's taboo to talk about salaries and pay. This suppresses market knowledge of what someone is really worth. This is actually anti-free market. Once I started openly talking with my colleagues about what we each made, we all ended up much better at negotiating our salaries. I wish I could tell you all what your market value truly is, but I can guarantee you it's probably more than you're making. It's why when you find a new job, your current company just so happens to magically find more money for you to match your new offer. As a bonus tip, don't take it. Move on to better things. Glassdoor.com. TLDR. Planned obsolescence and all the different types, with examples. Planned obsolescence. Basically, products are designed by manufacturers to wear out after a certain period of time or amount of use. This is done to force consumers to repurchase products or purchase new versions of products. There are a few types of planned obsolescence. First is contrived durability, which means a product is designed to deteriorate quickly. A great example is how disposable razor blades wear out so quickly. The second type is prevention of repairs, which means a product is designed in such a way that it is either made to be a single-use item, like disposable cameras, or in a way that uses proprietary hardware to prevent repairs and even damage the products if repairs are attempted. Apple is guilty of this with the majority of their product lineup, even seeking legislation to make it illegal to provide the difficult repairs. The third is perceived obsolescence, which means a manufacturer frequently releases new versions of a product to make consumers feel as if the old product is far inferior. This is incredibly common, and in the grand scheme of things, fairly harmless. This type of planned obsolescence doesn't force a consumer to purchase a new product, but rather coerces them to, as do many other marketing campaigns. Common examples include new cars, phones, televisions, apparel, etc., for which new versions are released frequently. Fourth is systemic obsolescence, which is when a manufacturer deliberately attempts to make a product obsolete by altering the system to make regular use difficult. Many people, including myself, accuse Apple of this when they release a new iPhone. Many people find that their old iPhone begins to run slowly after the latest iOS update following the release of the new iPhone model. Last is programmed obsolescence, which is when a product contains a mechanical or electrical system that limits the amount of uses the product has. One notable example is printer cartridges, which use software to limit the amount of pages they will print, regardless of the actual ink level. Hewlett-Packard was sued on allegations that their ink cartridges would expire on a certain date. Altogether, these practices create an abundance of waste and unethically force consumers to buy more stuff. This is a great way to make money hand over fist, and it is far more common than most people may think. People often complain that things just don't last as long as they used to, which, excluding survivorship bias, is true because they are built not to. holding companies and operating companies. So I'm a business called Consolidated Widgets Inc. and I want to open a widget factory in the US. Widget manufacturing is inherently dangerous, but that's okay because the people need their widgets. So I build my factory, hire some workers, install some equipment, procure some raw materials. Then I start producing widgets. Invariably one of the workers, Leroy, is injured. Leroy goes to hospital and gets fixed but has ongoing disability for which he sues Consolidated Widgets Inc. But the case is thrown out because Leroy didn't actually work for Consolidated Widgets Inc. He worked for Flyover Widget Operating Company, which has substantially fewer assets than the multi-billion-dollar Consolidated Widgets Inc. What happened? When Consolidated Widgets started this process, they formed two subsidiary companies, Flyover Widget Operating Company and some Beach Holding Company, incorporated in Barbados. Most of the material investment went to the holding company, which owns the real estate and likely the equipment and possibly raw materials. Basically everything but the people. Then the operating company leases the facility and equipment from the holding company, and now the parent company can ensure that in the event of a lawsuit or government enforcement action, their assets are mostly protected. This is not 100% secure though, because if you pee people off enough, the government can absolutely come in and say this is bulls. I don't care about your corporate structure, you're essentially the same company, so we'll pierce that corporate veil and take your assets anyway. But generally the government doesn't like to do this because the people in office probably have a vested interest in the continued ability to shield assets in this way. HR departments pretending that they have the employees' best interests in mind, when really they have the company's best interests in mind and will screw over employees if it's good for the company. Seen that in almost every place that I've worked. Yes, I know HR works for the company, not the employee. It is just that I've worked in many places, and heard of many more, where HR styles itself as the employee's friend, a place to turn to when things are not going well, when they are anything but. I have worked at places where HR did actually bend over backwards to help employees. These were exceptions. They owe me the last $10,000 under our agreement. The work is done. They say, we'll pay you $7,500 in full settlement. Either take that or get nothing and sue us. P.S. Don't tell me to see a lawyer. I am a lawyer. Emissions testing garages that deliberately fail your car so that they can make money doing needless repairs, or recommend a buddy's business for the work. To be fair, this is illegal, not just unethical. Not hiring people that are overqualified. Sorry that I've got years of experience and bills to pay, my bad. Hire some dumb crap instead. Go for it. Stress yourself out. Lose all your hair. Be about I hate this job. Whatever. Be proud of that crappy paying job. Be the king of your own little hill. Go for it. Meanwhile, some people just want a freaking job where they can work their way up. Pretty much everyone promotes from within. I think they just want that promotion for themselves and are afraid to bring people in that actually can do the job better. In construction, management is full of thieves. 1. The lowest bidder. Usually a friend of someone who tells them what the other bids are. They know they will win the contract and then the costs will rise through change orders and other unanticipated costs. Very common with public sector contracts. 2. Change orders. A lot of project managers, or in some cases, superintendents, will sign expensive change orders and split the money with the subcontractor, or in lieu of money have expensive remodels done on their own homes. 3. Over-underestimators. Estimators will purposely do both of the above in private sector jobs, for outright cash or other benefits. 4. Business development. These folks will rep your company at trade shows, glad hand on your dime. Go to expensive dinners when you contract, or more likely will enjoy getting paid by you while they sell those contracts to your competitors. Or if they are very ambitious, leverage them into a higher paying job at a bigger company. 5. Also in this industry, more on the developer side, you can count on sleazy environmental lawyers to sue your project on behalf of NIMBY neighbors looking for a settlement to go away or hold you up at your expense for years while they go up the chain of appeals saying your environmental documents are insufficient, forged, inadequate, incomplete or whatever. Neighborhoods don't see that money. The attorney will usually walk for $100K though, depending on the size of your project. 6. Government entities will all extort projects in any way they can. I recall one that was on the edge of a city limits, near a freeway, near a creek and had a green patch, seasonal wetland, near a walking trail. City wanted a new road, county wanted new bridges, depth of fish and game wanted a wider creek, for miles. Parks and Recs wanted a trail extension. State Transportation Dept wanted a ramp-on-ramp improvements. Army Corps of Engineers, for the wetland, wanted to remove the wetland and buy and donate riverfront property to them personally, to replace it. Source: 8 years in the industry. Posting a job listed as entry level and then in the description it says 3 to 5 years of experience required. Bonus points for the tech industry. Listing a job that requires more years of experience than the tech has even existed. Firing people at age 39. Because at age 40 you could potentially sue for age discrimination. I live in an adult state, MD, USA, which means they can fire you at any time for any reason. But they are still subject to discrimination laws, so goodbye at 39. Most places won't bother with that. Work at will means they can fire you for no reason at all. Proving that you were fired for something like age discrimination is incredibly difficult. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.